Hi everyone, my name is Alan. I'm here again to have a story, have a chit-chat session with our new guest speaker. She's called Alice. Hi Alice. Hello,
Hi
welcome.
everyone.
Hello. So Alice
Uh,
is a freshman in Cornell University right now, and she in the next two episodes, she's going to share her experience about why studying UK and US. And in the next episode, she's going to share about the pandemic situation in the US in the Cornell University. So let's start with the first session first, okay? So, hi Alice, would you please explaining us or introducing yourself to the audience first?
Hi, my name's Alice. I'm from Hong Kong, obviously, and I've been studying abroad since 12 or 13. I can't really remember. I spent my first 6 years in the UK at a boarding school, and now I am a freshman at Cornell University in the US, as Alan just said. Um, so that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, well, I mean, Cornell University isn't one of the Ivy League school. How's the
Yes,
study life there? Is really hard, tough, or really
it's very
academic focus?
Yeah, it's super academic. Everyone here, I mean, I would say most people here are like definitely want to achieve something in life. And
Hmm.
we do work very hard. Like today, for example, I just had a test, and yesterday I had a test as well. And I've been working since I woke up this morning.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and I've been, yeah, like I was working just before this meeting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've never worked so hard in my life, I don't think, like for such a long period of time. But I think it's very worth it because I'm learning so much. People here are like very smart, and the professors are wonderful.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm double majoring in economics and computer science.
Right.
So that's two subjects. A lot of people major in just one major, and they like specialize, but I want to have both. So
Hmm.
that's I think I've definitely got a lot to gain from it. I really like the skills uh, gaining, but also that means double the work in some ways.
You mentioned that you studied in the UK boarding school before, right?
Mhm.
Um, how was the life there? It is all right, well, for me, boarding school is everyone staying in the boarding house and they're playing all the time, and then they will study in a really regular and routine student life, and like 8 o'clock have to wake up for breakfast and and you have to go to this class sharp at 9, something like that. Like this is just my own thoughts, but how was it in real life?
I think you've got it pretty right.
Right.
My life was my life was very regimented back at the boarding school. So like I still remember breakfast was always at 7:45, except for
Oh,
Sundays when we have to go to church. And
oh.
yeah, like it's because I went to a Christian boarding school, we went to church 3 times a week, and it was at the
Mm,
same time every time. Yeah, life was very expectable. Like you know what's coming. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
mm,
When you're young, it's good to have like a routine to follow, like the same time to go to bed every night.
mm,
That really helps. Obviously, at university, you don't have that. You need to be very independent, but that was a good thing back then. I'd say I generally enjoyed my boarding school experience. It was very tough in the first year. I was really homesick. Um, yeah, like I was a pretty independent like 12-year-old already, but
yeah.
still it was so difficult because like it was just a different culture, whole new people, whole new group of people. Yeah, and I like my family was so far away from me. The food was different,
Yeah.
everything. It was so cold and dark. I'm sure
Well,
you
especially in the
probably
winter time, it's definitely very long.
Yeah, it's probably not as cold as Finland where you went, but it's still very cold.
No.
Yeah.
Finland.
Mm,
Oh, minus 20, minus 30. Oh,
Oh God, yeah,
yeah.
that's freezing.
I remember I was standing outside, minus 27, watching the fireworks. I was frozen.
That sounds pretty special though. Sounds really fun.
Well, yes, well, the student life there
Thing to
great.
remember.
Was really
Yeah.
good.
What
Okay.
Another thing I would say about boarding school is that it's very quintessentially British. So,
Hmm.
for example, and I had to learn Latin.
Ah.
And I also did ancient Greek and stuff like that, and the
Well, they
European
are
languages.
compulsory or not?
Latin was compulsory, yeah.
Wow, Latin is compulsory.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed it because I love languages, but
Okay.
it's I would say like maybe a lot of Hong Kong parents would think that's unnecessary or like useless because only the Romans used
Hmm.
it way back when. But yeah, so and I'd say they're a little bit backward sometimes in their thinking. It's quite conservative. Um, uh, yeah, and everything is very based on like health and safety. So I wasn't allowed to have a coffee machine in my room. It's all very like regulated. The teachers get really mad at you if you like go out of the boarding house at like an unapproved time of
Yeah.
day, for
Well, you
example,
need a
when you're
lot of
young.
discipline there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's definitely very disciplined, and that was, I'd say, at at the end, as I approach adulthood, that was something that really just didn't didn't blend with me very well because I wanted independence very much, and it just got a bit much at the end. But like, I mean, rules are rules, I guess.
Yeah. Well, well, in the video, you have also mentioned about the differences between one of the differences between US and UK is the focus. In US, they focus in activities like the ECA,
Mhm.
extracurricular activities. In UK, they focus on the academic, right? Or there's a lot of schools specialized, some specialized subjects. So while you're studying in UK, do you feel that the stress of studies is much higher than studying in US?
I would actually say the opposite. Well, I think like while the US has like a greater emphasis on extracurricular activities
Hmm.
at university, I know for a fact that my British friends are having a really easy first year because as long as they score higher than 40%, they pass their first year and the score doesn't count. Like they just need to get 40%. But whereas in the US, we have a thing called GPA,
What?
grade point average. Yeah, exactly. So everything you do counts, and it's gonna be on your CV, on your resume. It's gonna be really important when you apply to grad school, like a master's program or something. It's something that like people do look at. So I'd
But don't
say
you,
like, yeah.
but don't you feel that if in like for example in US, you have the GPA system and everyone can have different, they can collect different scores from different disciplines, like from these activities, from that activities, from that quiz, from that attendance, so that your score can be spread away. But then for in the UK, the students will need to focus really hard in the exam. Like, well, the first year doesn't count, but the second and third year, you will have to study hard for the A level exam, only focusing on your academics. So I'm just thinking this way whether they will feel the stress in the studies.
Yeah, I can't like say for certain. I'm sure like that they do have a lot of work to do.
Mhm.
Definitely not in the first year because I always complain to my friends, oh no, I have so much work, and they're like, really? Yeah. But yeah, I think it also really depends which university you go to. If you go to
Mhm.
a really academic university, of course they'll have a lot of work to do. Um, I have heard of like people in really kind of intensive majors. I mean subjects, and they really work on New Year's Eve and things like that. So it really depends. And I think like I'm not saying that I think British people definitely still have like a big emphasis on academics in high school and and uh and universities, but it's just that my impression is
Mm.
that Americans overall just like kind of are more focused like all the time, whereas British students might revise a lot around exams, but not like all the time. And although attendance and things like that counts for GPA, like tests and exams are still like a main part of it. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and what was
Mm.
I gonna say? Oh, and when I say extracurricular activities matter, I also like mean when you apply to American universities, if you're a really good student athlete, um, you can get recruited, and your scores don't have to be that good,
Mhm.
because you're so good at like basketball, for example.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and things like that. So they also care about your personal projects. If they're really outstanding, then that can cover some of your academic shortfalls. Whereas that's not the case with the UK. You just have to be good at A levels or like good at your subject.
So, what kind of students are suitable to study overseas? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to be able to step out of your comfort zone, and
Mhm.
you won't easily give up. Um, and yeah, you're up to try new things. You are hopefully like you don't have to be super sociable, but it'll be nice to make friends. I know like when at my old boarding school, I there were quite a few Hong Kong students, and
Mm.
quite a few of them just made like friends who are also from Hong Kong, and that's quite common. um yeah, so I think it's definitely not good, but like good to make friends with the locals sometimes. Like you can make friends with Hong Kong people as well, but if you're studying abroad, you might as well, you know.
Mhm.
um and yeah, like it can be very challenging at times. Just even simple daily things can be very annoying. So I was trying to set up a bank account, but
Mm.
because the US is so tough on like money laundering and financial security, it's very hard for a foreigner like me to get a bank account. So
Oh.
it took me like so long to figure out, and like the whole time I just had to pay in cash and things like that. And you just have to be ready to deal with any unexpected circumstances. If you're that kind of person who just let your mom and dad take care of it or something like that, then you either you have to learn to be independent, or maybe
Will
it's
there
not
be
for you.
anyone there in the US advice, giving you advice or help you to go through to adapt the whole life? Like I know a study buddy or your school counselor will help you on that.
Yeah. I think there's definitely a lot of support systems. At Cornell, for example, there's like a global learning center kind of thing that I probably could have gone to ask for help. I'd say your best bet is probably just to ask other international students. At
Mhm.
Cornell, there's like a Hong Kong student club as well, and they give you tips and things on what to do. And if you go to a university that has a large enough international student population, then you'd probably find a lot of resources like that. Otherwise, I'd say the internet is a really good place to go to, and that's how I found like tips about bank accounts now,
Mhm.
and things like that. Yeah.
Right. Wow, that definitely takes lots of time on how to
Hmm.
prepare how to adapt to the new life there.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I believe
yeah.
that the first year, I think for the overseas studies, It's definitely a great experience, but you have learned a lot to how to be independent, how to get yourself involved in this in the whole new environment. And well, that's definitely challenging. I definitely know that. So I think in the next episode, we're going to talk about the challenges during the pandemic situation. Well, and everyone knows that the pandemic situation hits all the things, all the status quo of everyone's life. And the next episode, Alice is going to share her stories, how the pandemic situation affects her learning style, her whole lifestyle. I will see you next time. If you need any comments, if you have any comments, please write down there. See you next time. Bye bye.